We were having a discussion the other day about Boston. And is Boston actually good enough to compete in the East, especially now that the Cavaliers seem to be the team to beat? What's up, Alan?
I was not expecting that, but I
Hey,
agree.
man. Colin Sexton's a legit star now.
He is. I'll give him that.
Dude, is Boston good enough to compete though in the East? Do you think they could actually represent the conference in the finals this year?
So since my Nets obviously do not know how to play defense,
Not at
and
all.
I mean, yeah, they haven't logged in a full practice together yet, but I mean, obviously the Nets have a lot of flaws. The Bucks have flaws once the playoffs start, and it just seems like the East might be up for grabs. And with the way Boston's defense is looking, how they're playing even without Tatum, they have a healthy Kemba. All of a sudden, you have a pretty talented roster again for the Celtics. And honestly, like, who knows? Maybe they do come out the East. I'm not sure if they can compete with the Lakers, but I do think the East looks like it's up for grabs right now.
Before I even say anything, I gotta say this. If the Nets score every possession that they have in the playoffs, obviously the Nets are going to win by 200 points every game.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to put that out there before I go in. But they have the pieces in order to win this year. And like Alan said, the one smart thing he said this whole podcast is that the East is wide open, and I would agree.
So I mean, I've taken way too many W's in this entire podcast. So
N-
like
no, you've taken one.
like Elias can believe what he wants, but he's out here looking dumb all podcast
So
long.
you had
Oh,
four teams that Matt Stafford could go to, and you said the name that shall not be said twice.
and you
That's two L's
also
right there.
agreed with it. Bring
I,
that
I
ass over here, boy.
I didn't agree to
Bring that
calling.
ass back.
Damn, he's
I
pulling a
didn't.
LeVar.
I didn't agree to calling the team that is not what you called them before, because that is racist.
Undefeated, never lost.
Allen has lost many times. Trust me.
Never lost.
This man.
Speaking of losing though, let's say Boston doesn't represent the East. Let's say they lose in the playoffs. Let's say whatever round, they're currently a 2 seed, paired up against the 7 seed Cavaliers. Let's say the Cavs knock them out round 1 because it's the greatest team in Cleveland history going up against Boston. Is Brad Stevens on the hot seat?
What do you think, Elias?
So I think if Boston were to meet the Nets in any round, I think obviously because the Nets are going to score 300 points, you don't fire him at that point because you just like no one's going to beat that team. I mean, it's just they're the greatest team ever assembled. But if they were to play the Cavs and they were to lose to the Cavs, I think Boston twice, yeah, maybe 4 times. I think you probably got to think about cutting them, but at this point, I think you'd get one more season. Because I mean, you got to think like, at what point are you saying there's so many excuses? Because before it was LeBron, then it was Kyrie was injured, and now it was the Raptors, and now it's the Nets. So like, how much more longer can they keep losing?
Wow, putting no respect on the Cavaliers there.
So with Brad Stevens, like we have to take a look back. So a couple years back, he took that scrappy team with like rookie Tatum, a young Jalen, and God knows who else was there, Marcus Smart, and they beat the Bucks before they were good. They beat the Sixers with rookie Ben Simmons before they were great. And then they lost to the Cavaliers that had George Hill starting. Just this ragtag group led by LeBron James. Really awful team, but they had LeBron James. They were definitely a beatable team that year, and then they got swept. So I personally thought that playoff run was overrated to begin with. And after that run, everyone's like, oh, he did it without Kemba. He did it without Gordon Hayward. Brad Stevens is worth a first round draft pick. He might be worth as much as a superstar. Everyone had these dumbass claims, which made no sense for an overrated playoff run to begin with. And then the next 3 years, he had super talented teams and looked lost. And there's dysfunction in the locker room every single year. Yeah, we can blame Kyrie for it. But after Kyrie left, half the team left because they had their roles were dumb. Rozier wasn't being played right. Baines wasn't even being played. Half the team left. And then the year after, or during the bubble, what happened? It was they looked lost. They got out coached by the Raptors. And that team was much worse than the Celtics at that point. And then they got absolutely bodied by a much worse Miami Heat team. And then what happened? What happened in the locker room, guys? It literally looked like a Barry McCockiner tweet. We heard Marcus Smart crying, throwing shit. Everyone wanted to fight each other. Are we going to blame Kyrie Irving for that? There's one constant on the team. We can't blame Jaylen Brown. We can't blame Tatum. Who's the one guy we have to blame? It's Brad Stevens. And if a similar fate happens again, I think the discussion then starts that Brad Stevens might have to go. I think they give him another year, but I think that's when the Max Kellermans and the Stephen A's, that's when they're going to really start talking about it. That's when they're going to start paying attention because they're a reactionary group. It has to be spoken into existence first, and that's what we're doing right now.
Damn. You want to know why Allen hates Boston so much?
They're racist.
No, they're alleged racists, but because the Boston organization finessed the Nets for a big three trade for basically all their picks up until last year. And he's always hating because, he always was hating on Jason Tatum, but deep down inside, he wished Jason Tatum would have been on the Nets, which he could have been because, the Nets were trash and that was their pick. But this hate for the Celtics just doesn't make any sense to me. The team is young. The team still has plenty of time to win a finals. And I think that they will win one within the next 5 years. And I think Brad Stevens gives you one of the better chances to win. Because at this point, who are you going to bring in once he's fired?
Who knows? I mean,
see, that's the thing.
Coaches everywhere.
No, there's not coaches everywhere.
Maybe they bring in Kenny Atkinson.
Why would you bring in Kenny Atkinson?
He deserves his chance.
Maybe
you get Doc Rivers back. Maybe you can get Phil Jackson.
You're not going to get Phil Jackson, bro. Come on.
Phil Jackson is in Wyoming enjoying peyote to his heart's content.
I'm just saying, good coaches come around quite often.
No, they don't. If you look at the pipeline of coaches in the NBA, they're kind of trash. Think about it.
Toronto wants to would like to disagree with you. They arguably have the best coach in the entire league, and he came out of nowhere.
But just look at all these coaches that come into the NBA. They get 2 or 3 years and they get fired because they're trash. Name the NBA coaching tree is not like it is in the NFL.
I mean, how many of those teams have the talent that the Celtics have? They should be they should be one of the favorites with that roster.
I don't disagree with you, but then again, you're running up.
But why aren't they?
If you can't just be the coach. They're going up against super teams. They hold their own. Maybe
they're
last year
basically a super team.
They're
Look
not
at the
not
way
to the
Jaylen
same
Brown
extent.
is playing.
Okay, right now he also doesn't have Jason Tatum playing, so his numbers are inflated. But he is playing great. You can't just put everything on the coach all the time. You have to put some shit on the players.
Oh,
and you also have to.
But we
also have to look at.
It seems every year we're playing on the players and never any on Brad Stevens. And my argument is we have to start blaming him, or at least putting a lot of the blame on him.
Okay.
If you think you can bring in a better coach than what Brad Stevens is, then go for it. But if you don't think you could find another coach that is either as good or better than him, you can't fire him.
That brings me to my question. Is there a coach on the market right now that's better than Brad Stevens?
I mean,
You can't think of one because there's not a good NBA coaching tree, like I said. Give
we
me
don't
one.
know.
Give me one.
We just don't know yet. That's what I'm saying. Like, if there was a good coach on the market, obviously they would be on a team right now.
I mean, you
Coaches
can go
are fired, like you said, left and right. Who the fuck knows?
They're bad.
We really don't know. Maybe there's a nice assistant from the Spurs or something like that. Who knows? We really don't. You could literally say the same thing about the NFL or any other league, but good coaches come around every now and again. How many chances is Brad Stevens gonna get? How many coaches get the amount of chances that Stevens is probably going to get?
You know what? This might be crazy here, but if Becky Hammonds is available, assistant on the Spurs, and I have to fire Brad Stevens, I think I might fire Brad Stevens here and get Becky Hammonds.
She'd have them playing harder than Brad Stevens has ever had them playing. We saw them against the Raptors last year.
You're coming from a pop coach lineage, and you're Becky fucking Hammonds. Yeah, that sealed the deal in my mind.
Is she racist?
I don't think so.
So I don't know if she's a good fit for that culture.
I know I wanted her to be Knicks coach, though, for a while now. I'll take her over Tibbs.
Hell, Tibbs, he came out of nowhere. He was just
Tibbs
chilling on the waiver market, bro. And he's one of the better coaches. You see what the way he's having the Knicks play?
Yeah, Tibbs is doing what Tibbs always does, though. Like, this is nothing new with Tibbs. We're just getting Chicago Tibbs.
Yeah, we're getting the good Tibbs. Just saying, when you have a roster like that, it's hard to not put any blame on the coach. And I think like one more ugly playoff exit, I think we start to actually talk about it. I don't know why it's so hard.
Only for my girl Becky. All I'm going to say.
Maybe they bring in Derek Fisher, WNBA legend.
Moving on.